There's just one rope walking school in Russia, and it's in Dagestan. The head teacher, Ramazan Gadzhiev, says you can pick out a future successful rope walker from the very first lesson. Gadzhiev relies on years of experience. He says it's harder to teach girls difficult stunts, but they have better coordination than the boys. To succeed, a student needs rope walking genes.
Rope walking is in our blood. It'll be tough for someone from another village to master it. As we say here, if your father's a mason, you can also become a good mason. If your forefathers are rope walkers, then it's in your blood. So if you really want to, you can do it. You're bound to it.
All of the residents of Tsavkra can walk a rope. However, only the most ambitious and hard-working can do sophisticated stunts. It took centuries for the ancestors of modern rope walkers to perfect their craft. Each maneuver is passed down in families as a secret art. Rope walkers from Tsavkra have always been welcome in every Dagestani village. But they've always been drawn to the village of Kubachi, famous the world over for its goldsmiths and items made of precious metals. Kubachi has always been rich with the gold and silver the rope walkers used to get as a reward for their performances.
I still remember, when I was a small boy, Tsavkra rope walkers used to visit us often. They performed, and we paid them in cash or in handmade items, such as lamps or jugs.
The floor in Gadji Bakhmud Magomedov's house is covered with a handmade carpet made in the early 20th century. Gadji Bakhmud's father once traded the carpet for 3 golden daggers at a Derbent bazaar. Bartering has long existed alongside money in Dagestan. Every craftsman's village was a bartering center. For centuries, residents of Kubachi collected gold, silver, and chinaware items. Every house is like a private museum.
Everything you see here I got from my wife. The wealth in Kubachi is passed down along the female line.
Girls in Kubachi still rarely marry boys from neighboring villages. This is how they keep and multiply their wealth within Kubachi with every generation. Residents of the village believe their predecessors were goldsmiths serving the Persian king Darius. After he was defeated by Alexander the Great, the goldsmiths wandered around the world desperately searching for a place to settle. They found these lands, and legend has it, they bribed the mist so that it concealed their skills and wealth from jealous strangers.
If you look around, you'll see the Kubachi mist. It's typical of this area only. Kubachi is embraced by the mist that used to hide craftsmen from others so they could create their masterpieces.
But the mist failed to protect the wealth of the goldsmiths. In 1991, the Kubachi Museum was robbed. 2 of the security staff were killed. The criminals wanted to steal a unique saber made by local craftsmen. Luckily, it was later found and returned to the museum.
Another unique item on display is a saber which belonged to the Iranian ruler Nadir Shah. It has a double blade. When striking a body, it was designed to tear off a piece of flesh, and such wounds never healed.
The local museum has a large collection of unique items. One is a handmade vase of gold, silver, walrus, and mammoth ivory. It was a birthday present for the Soviet leader, Joseph Stalin.
This vase is unique. Our craftsman Gadji Bakhmud Magomedov made it in 1952. After Stalin's death, it was given to the Hermitage in St. Petersburg. Kubachi residents learned that some people were out to destroy it, so they bought it to save it.
In this picture from 1948, Gadji Bakhmud Magomedov is 20. His wife, Raisat, is 17. He's a young craftsman who had just started creating the vase. Now he's working on the dagger. He's totally focused on engraving the pattern. But he admits it's harder than it used to be. His sight isn't so sharp these days, and it gets harder to design a high-quality pattern by the day. That's why he's passing his skills and secrets down to his grandson, Rasul. The Kubachi goldsmiths were recognized far beyond Dagestan. The Made in Kubachi label was often faked, especially on steel products and firearms. Sharpshooting firearms and exquisitely handsome daggers became popular in the 19th century during the Caucasian War. High-quality weapons were produced by both sides. Imam Shamil, who led the mountainous people of Dagestan and Chechnya against the Russians for 25 years, was fond of Kubachi weapons.
In this very workshop, the grandfather of this blacksmith, named Salih Halav, forged sabers, knives, and all kinds of weapons for Imam Shamil. So this fire has been burning here since the 19th century. Little has changed here since then.
Magomed Khan Magomedkhanov often comes to the village of Gimri, where Shamil was born, to collect historical data. Much here remains unchanged from the old days. The typical narrow streets of a mountain village. Houses hang one over another. This is the house where Shamil was born. And of course, those are the forbidding mountains that ensured Shamil's victories.
Russia has recognized this outstanding historical figure. He is part of Dagestani history, North Caucasian legends, and Russian history all at the same time.
The Museum of Local History traces the complex relationship between Russia and Dagestan. In 1834, the Caucasian War broke out. In the early 19th century, Iran handed over part of its territory, including Dagestan, to Russia. But the people of central Dagestan staged a rebellion. War began. It finished when Shamil was captured. This event is shown in the painting by Francois Roubaud, The Capture of Shamil. The painting tells the story of events in 1859, when Imam Shamil surrendered to General Baryatinsky. Soon after, Shamil was released.
When Shamil surrendered to the Russian Tsar, he said, "I stopped fighting only when I saw that people in the mountains only had grass to eat."
The 25-year war killed more than 160,000 people from both sides. The memories of those events live on in Dagestan's folk dances, which feature saber fighting. This dance commemorates a bloody battle near the village of Akhulgo. 150 years ago, Shamil's troops encountered the Cossacks, the vanguard of the Russian army. After the war, the Cossacks stayed behind and became border guards. Nikolai Spirin is the ataman, or the Cossacks' commander, in the city of Kizlyar. 260 years ago, Kizlyar was Russia's southern outpost, defending it against raids from the Highlanders. In the Soviet Union, the Cossacks as a group were not recognized. Only in the early 1990s were the ancient traditions revived. Now, the Cossacks from Kizlyar patrol the border with the Chechen Republic, which begins on the outskirts of the town. As soon as he comes of age, each Cossack takes an oath of honor. After the ceremony, the Cossacks ride to the Terek River to demonstrate their skills in handling weapons. Dagestan is still strategically important to Russia's south. People say that if you control Dagestan, you control the Caucasus. Terrorists knew that when they invaded Dagestan in the summer of 1999. Shamil Basayev and Emir Khattab invaded Dagestan with 2,000 militants. The Russian armed forces played the biggest role in the counter-terrorist operation. But in the early days of the invasion, it was the local population that built up its own militia groups and held out until the main Russian troops arrived. In the town of Novolak, the militia was headed by businessman Ispai Amrakayev. Now he's a deputy in Dagestan's People's Assembly, and 7 years on, he watches himself and his militia on video.
Why did we form our militia? We all took a stand and said no.
The best memory Ispai Amrakayev can recall is the militia's victory parade on Novolak Square.
Dagestan should not be led by the nose or be provoked to leave the Russian Federation. It would be a very big mistake.
Since the Caucasian War in the 19th century, Dagestan has repeatedly proved its loyalty to Russia, including during the Second World War. And while many territories wanted to leave the Soviet Union during the early 1990s, Dagestan stayed put. Service in the Russian army is considered an honor by many in Dagestan. It's quite an occasion for relatives and friends to see a conscript off. This young villager from Urkarach is leaving for an army posting. His relatives give him one last hug, a little money, and shower him with sweets to make his service more comfortable. All the men in the village of Urkarach were soldiers at one time. They are proud that one of their villagers will once again serve in the Russian army. Serve well. Do not disgrace your village and come back a real man, the older generation tells the recruit as they see him off. And the orders of the village elders are obeyed unquestioningly. In Dagestan, this is a long-standing tradition.